Hi, Christoph here. I just pushed an update to the contacts page PR and I just wanted to go over it because last Friday I did a 2 hour design stream session on this, which nobody probably wants to watch, but maybe I can put this in a 5-minute video here with where I am at with this page currently. So contacts are helpful because, when let's say we call somebody on our phone, we don't type in the number anymore. We go to our contact list, tap person's face or name, and then it picks the right way to communicate, or it asks us, well, do you want to do a video call or do you want an audio call? But it's pretty straightforward. Like, we've abstracted away a lot of these identifiers or these addresses, phone numbers, all this stuff. And because those identifiers are even more complex in Bitcoin, to show you what they typically can look like, they may look like all of this stuff here. We need to even more so abstract them away for people. But there are so many different ones here, and each of them kind of functions a little bit differently. That means we need pretty detailed UX, UI design. But let's hop right in. So let's start with the very basics. I have an empty contact list here, which is created by wallet. I don't have anything. And I say, okay, I want to add a contact. Then I enter a name. I've entered a name. Now I have a contact with no addresses. It's like an empty contact. All it has is a name. So I can already request Bitcoin here. I press request. It generates an invoice. And then I can press the share button and it would, I would be able to send that invoice by iMessage or whatever I'm using, right? But I cannot send yet because there's no address associated with this contact that I can repeatedly use. And the term address, when I'm using it here, that will refer to all of these things here. Like everything that I can send, whatever string is that I can send to multiple times or even one time, that's an address here in this context. But let's say, I have an address. I can press add address. I type it in. If I'm not sure which ones are supported, I can access that right here, and then it will tell me. This could be expanded further even, so I could maybe expand each one, and it tells me, okay, this is where you would get this address from, this is what it looks like, to make sure people don't, because you don't want people who are uncertain here to accidentally enter the wrong thing or make a mistake, and then they send money to somebody they didn't want to, or they burn it. Okay. And once I enter something, it should tell me, like, yes, this is a valid address you can make repeated payments to. Or, this is a single-use on-chain address you can make one payment to. And then once I've done this, this is what the contact looks like. Now I have a send button, tap it, and then we'll send something to this address. Or if I have on-chain single-use address, it will look pretty much the same, but once it's used, it will disappear from this list. And everything is called addresses here. Now, one step further, so here you'll see a contact that has transaction associated, and it has multiple addresses. This is, what is this even? This is a LN URL pay withdraw request. This is a Lightning address, and this is a Lightning node ID. Just totally different things. For a normal person, this makes no sense. But I cannot put in node ID or something like that here. That's even more confusing. So we just call them addresses here and give access to help. And ideally, users don't interact with it because they just need to press the send button. There are options for adding addresses, editing contacts, merging with other contacts, typical things that you know from other contact lists, contact tools. And then if I, let's say, go into edit mode, I can delete them. Maybe we can have an option to label addresses. So if one of them is for donations, one's for business, one's for personal, I could type that in here. I could reorder them. And then whenever I press send, the one at the top will be used, or I can delete them. Okay. Now we've manually added them, and then we've manually edited addresses. But let's take it a step further. So when I import an address, so for example, I might copy paste something from a website, and then I go to the app checks the clipboard and it realizes, okay, there's an address here. Or I might have scanned a QR code or clicked a link or something else. So it tells me, this modal shows up, it says, you copied a Lightning address, what do you want to do? In this case, I have 3 options. I want to send to this one, I want to request from it, or I want to add it as a contact. In this scenario, I press add contact, then I enter my name here, press add contact, contact's created, and this address here is saved to it. And then, this is all I wanted to do as a user. So this is a scenario, manually entering an address probably doesn't happen very often. This is kind of more likely to happen, where it's imported in one way or another. Now, let's say I imported an invoice. So an address is just an address. There's no action tied to it, but an invoice has an action tied to it. It says, you're requested to pay this amount to this address. Here's a very rich address, an LNURL pay request to be specific. And, there's an address in here and it's already matched to a contact. So the app automatically detected this is pre-LE here because this address here was in the invoice and it automatically figured it out. Now that's a good scenario. And then the invoice and the payment will be associated with this contact. Let's say that's not possible. Then I have an add contact button. Like this is a minimal invoice here. Then I have an add contact button. I tap the contact and then this model shows up. I tap the contact and then the invoice is associated with this contact. And then once I press pay, if there is a repeatedly usable address in here, that will then be associated here with the contact. If there isn't one, only the transaction is associated with the contact. And you'll see here I don't have a send button. Here I have one because I have no information where I would easily be able to send more Bitcoin to. Now, starting this from the home screen, this is my home screen. I type in 2000, I press pay, I pick a contact, in this case, Priya here, and in this scenario, she has a repeatedly usable address assigned. Then, it's assigned to this payment. I press pay, and it's sent. Very smooth. And if she doesn't have a repeatedly reusable address assigned, then there would be an extra step in between where I have to enter that one. Same with outgoing invoices. So I press 100, I press request. So in this case, I want to tell somebody like, hey, here, please pay me. And this is the address to pay to. So I can add a contact to this payment request. And then it gets associated with this payment if this invoice is ever completed in the future. But this contact, it's not shared. So if I press the share button here, I can send it over my chat app or email, whatever I want to do. But this contact information is not tied to this. This is just in this application. Okay, so let's say I made a payment yesterday or 2 days ago. I have no contacts assigned. Worst case scenario here is that my activity screen, nothing has any contacts assigned. It's kind of hard to tell what happened. Here's an example where that is much more obvious, where I have contacts assigned. This is my pizza order. This is from Priya. This is from Motor City. It's much easier to understand. But let's say I click one that does not have a contact assigned. Looks like this. I press contact. Contact list shows up. I tap the name and it's assigned. Very straightforward. So as you've seen now, the contacts are closely intertwined with sending, requesting, and the activity screen. It's like it's sprinkled into a lot of small places. And if we place this contact assignment in the right moments at the flow where it's relevant to users, then people will not end up with these empty contact lists, but they will have a much more useful way to organize their payments and contacts and also make new payments. But the complexity of all these different payment formats here, that has to be baked in. And something that I didn't cover here is also some of the details around some of these. And also, for example, the node ID, that is very basic. Every Lightning node has an ID. But sending to a node ID only requires a wallet to support keysend. Bolt 12 offer codes and addresses are currently only draft specs. They're still in development. They're not widely accepted. LNURL pay is widely accepted. Lightning address has its own peculiarities. Then Bitcoin addresses are, as shown in some of these UIs, they should be only used once for privacy. However, there might be a situation where a user still wants to send to a Bitcoin address for a second time, and they might have really good reasons to, and we might still want to allow that. So in this case, maybe it should still be possible. Now, extended public keys can be used to generate addresses for other users, but there are also privacy problems. So there are very detailed considerations around each of these, and lots of wallets integrate them in slightly different ways or support the one but not the other. So this is actually pretty intricate here. But for this page, I really just wanted to focus on the UI because this is also kind of a moving target. So anyways, I think that's kind of it. Hopefully that was a good overview of this page. I'm really curious to hear what you think. Thanks.